What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy P.Kidd, aka Patty Casanova, and we are now talking about why the NBA GOAT debate is just irrelevant. Listen, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that me, Pat, the designer, Ringo, J. Stefano Don, AD, the two-letter man himself, we talk sports weekly. I know it's a whole little sound effect I should have had with that, but guess what? I don't have it, and so we're gonna keep going with that. But we are now introducing some different things that we want to discuss. We know the Breeze family themselves. We always talk different things in the chat. We always get it busted with some other different conversations of players, different areas of things of that nature. So we thought, hey, why not introduce a show where we could kind of talk about those narratives, talk about all of those things. If if this goes well, we keep it going. If not, well, we do it again. So with that being the case, I'm gonna get the chat busted in a second as more people come in. I want to get to the thick of it as more people come in too. I got to get some theme music for this joint as well. I'm blaming Pat the designer for not having my theme music. Petty Casanova has to have some theme music. If you're just tuning in, hey, listen, drop a comment, like, share, subscribe. We are about to get into it, talking about the GOAT debate. One reason I wanted to actually have this conversation is because you know what? As we enter this era of just really interesting basketball, we have people who are doing some phenomenal things. Like Russ Goldberg, as most people are calling him now, is doing some things that we have never seen. Dame is doing some things that maybe we'll never see again, along with Steph Curry. Steph is on an amazing tear. And it just always, to me, impresses me about these different level of players and what they're able to do, what they're able to accomplish, and stuff like that. Angel, what's good with you? And some of the stuff we may never see repeated. And so for me, it always begs the question, why is the GOAT debate what it is when essentially the people who have came before these players really just inspired them to be better and push the game forward? And if we have to have it, why do we disrespect some legends for some of the same reasons that we praise others? It just never made sense to me. It never made sense for me to sit there and praise LeBron for getting to the finals as many times and just overall looking at his body of work. But I denigrate Karl Malone, who basically balled out, got to the finals, and really just it really it's really, in my opinion, one of the greatest power forwards that have ever played the game. He just didn't win the championship. But if rings are not part of the debate, what does it matter if you won or not? What does it matter if you get 6 rings, 7 rings, if you balled out and you were considered a dominant force of your era? Right. So it's like we keep moving the needle. And when you move the needle, when you move the goalpost, it's like, hey, you can't have, it's all subjective. But since we got to go into it, I was like, hey, listen, we have to have a definitive standard for what would equal a GOAT, what would amount to that. Man, we got to go way back. YBS was good. My boy joined as a GOAT. No more debate. You can say that. You can say that. You can say there's no debate. But I tell you what, I give you an interesting thing about Jordan. Jordan is one of the most dominant players we've ever seen in the game, mainly because of his accolades. But there's some players that came before him who would have been considered just as dominant when those awards didn't even exist. I think it's Bill Russell. They didn't have a Defensive Player of the Year award, but he definitely would have won multiple of them. So not only would he have won multiple Defensive Player of the Year, he would have won MVP, and he would league MVP, and he would have won championships during that run. It's kind of hard to beat. That's a record that's kind of hard to beat. It's one of those things. It's like, hey, I can't get with it. I can't say anything about it. I can't say anything against it. But at the end of the day, it's like, Will is another one. As you see, Will is actually on there. Will is one of those people who Wilt has his own record book. Wilt has a record book all to himself. And so when it comes to that GOAT debate, it's like, how do you not put him top 5 or top 3 when he has his own record book? Wilt has some stuff right now that will never be eclipsed. And when I say never, never be eclipsed. You're not going to see somebody average 50 for a season. You're not going to have someone average 50 and 20 for a season. You're never going to see it. You've never seen it before. You ain't gonna see it since. And guess what? You can't say, well, it was Wilt who he played against. Hey, guess what? Some of his contemporaries exist along with him. Bill played Wilt. Kareem played Wilt. They ain't do it. Wilt is just that freak of nature. It's a freak of nature. And so the GOAT conversation to me is never really made sense. Never really made sense because it was like so many different nuances and stuff like that. And I actually like to take it down. I like to take the GOAT conversation and do it by position. When you do the GOAT conversation by position, you are respecting. I think realistically, you give more respect to all of those particular players in there and how the game was played. In some eras, the game was dominated by big men. And you can't deny that. The game was predicated on feeding the ball to the big man. So if you really do that, if you really you want to have a real, objective conversation about it, you have to be respectful of that. You have to be mindful of that. So in that conversation, if you break it down by position, it really does. To me, you get a more comprehensive list. You get a real list of, that represents the best people in different areas at that position, and you really aren't missing anyone out. I'd rather rank them as opposed to say this one individual player is the absolute best they've ever played, when realistically, it's really subjective to that. So is there really a GOAT like YBS is saying? I don't really think there's a GOAT, like one player who leads them all. I think if you have to have that conversation, I don't see how Michael Jordan wouldn't be. If you just force that issue, because it's kind of hard to deny the narrative around it. But it's really, he's the best. I would say he's the best shooting guards I've ever played. I wouldn't say he's better than Wilt. I wouldn't say he's better than Kareem, who's the most. Kareem is the most accomplished, one of the most accomplished basketball players to have ever touched a basketball. Ever touched a basketball. T-Mac, what's good with you after 2011? Why is this a bit? Hey, listen, I tell you what, it is. It is. And even if LeBron gets 7, it doesn't mean that he was better. It doesn't make him better. He had more opportunity to get those 7, right? So it's like it doesn't even matter, right? But I'll put it to you like this. I like to break the GOAT conversation by position. And so I like to start from the point guard position. When you start from the point guard position, instead of the center position, now you get a more interesting conversation. And here's the one thing I would say. What's good for them? What's the one thing I would say? With this whole conversation of GOATs, who do you all have as the GOAT PG? Most people say Magic Johnson. Most people after Magic Johnson have this Magic Johnson. I don't even care who they have as a second one, to be honest with you, because everyone just says Magic Johnson. But I'm going to press you a little bit. How is Magic Johnson considered the GOAT? Or Steph? All right, Stephen Curry, I give you that. Steph is up there. But how is the man who has 2 records that will probably never be broken, not considered the GOAT PG? How is John Stockton not considered the GOAT PG? John Stockton right now has thousands of more assists than Chris Paul. And we call Chris Paul the point guard. Thousands more than Chris Paul. Now, here's to put this into perspective, right? Difference, but still basketball related. Steph Curry is considered one of the greatest shooters of all time. He's about to pass up Ray Allen, right? Just at the rate that it goes, he's gonna pass up Ray Allen. He needs 83 pointers to pass up Ray Allen. He about to get them 80. I mean, listen, call it this season, the next season. That's a record that's broke. That's gonna solely belong to Steph and some of the new shooters coming up, right? But be honest with you, that's a record within reach. John Stockton has a record that you can't even. Chris Paul is the closest we're gonna get at so far. And then Russ ain't even close to that. Russ is averaging triple doubles left and right. He's averaging at least 10 assists every single game. And he's done so consecutively at least the last 180, right? He's not even in the conversation. John Stockton himself is not only the assist leader, he will not only assist or get his offense running, he gonna bust your tail on the other end. The man is the steals leader. He's a steals leader. How is someone who leads the NBA in all-time categories that ain't even close? not considered the point PG, the guy PG? How does he get overlooked that much? Is it because he didn't win a chip? If John Stockton gets a chip, does that change the narrative on him? Does he have to? CP3 ain't got a chip. Chris Paul does not have a chip. Last time I checked, Chris Paul didn't have a league MVP either. Last time I checked, he should have. Like he should win it this year. He really should. But you still got clowns saying, "Hey, LeBron is still MVP." How, man, they didn't even play. Anyway, that's a whole different conversation though, right? AI. Listen, AI is not the point guard. AI is one of those combo guards. AI would, for most people, fall under a 2 guard. To be honest with you, T-Mac, what was Stockton doing in the playoffs before 1997? Stockton was almost the reason why Isaiah Thomas didn't get in. Isaiah Thomas legitimately, Stockton legitimately was battling for that spot, unbeknownst to John Stockton didn't care, but his stats and everything show it. His stats show it. And I would tell you the truth. There's some other people who you can put in that conversation. I think Isaiah Thomas, as man, thanks for Pat for tuning in. Hey, Isaiah Thomas, the only player to have beat Bird, Magic, and Mike in their primes and win 2 rings. So how was he not in that conversation? A lot of people don't have him top. Some people don't have him top 5. And a lot of respectable analyst lists, they don't have him top 5. How? How do you not do that? How? And if you look at what they was talking about, like, listen, I would consider Isaiah Thomas top 3. I would put as my point PG, if you had to say Mount Rushmore of sorts, is John Stockton, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and then after that, I would put Chris Paul, just because of how dominant Chris Paul has been at that position. You can't deny it. Chris Paul comes in and changes organizations. He changes organizations for real. If you don't believe it, we all felt like the Rockets was going to beat the Warriors because of Chris Paul, not because of James Harden. We feel like Phoenix got a fighting chance, not because Devin Booker got better, because Chris Paul is out there balling out. It's not even a question. If you don't believe that, hey, listen, I don't care I don't know what you smoking. Pass it. Because at this point, there is no way in the world you can sit there and say Devin Booker is the leader of that team. No, Chris Paul is the leader of that team. That's Chris Paul's team. Devin Booker's there for the ride. But we moving on from that. We go to the shooting guard position. And at that point, it's Michael Jordan at 1. It's not even close. It's Magic Johnson at 1. But again, very nuanced, because you can make a fighting argument just based off of the number of teams he had to play, the level of competition at his position at the time, the amount of all-stars he had to go through, the amount of dynasties he had to go through just to get to the finals, the fact that he was able to do it to make the finals as many times with and without a generational talent. You can make a fighting argument that Kobe Bryant was more skilled at the position. You could make a fighting argument. Kobe Bryant's the only one that between them that spent multiple years. I think Mike played 2-3 years with hand checking in zone. Kobe played 7 hand checking and zone. Mind you, he played 7 seasons hand checking in zone. We all called him a ball hog and a gunner, but he leads shooting guards in assists. He also, believe it or not, he also had a on par shooting percentage with Ray Allen, who most people consider Ray Allen a better dead eye shooter. And Kobe Bryant was on par with him and even beating him some seasons for a field goal percentage from 2 and at times from 3, depending on where you look at within the season. It's kind of hard to deny that. In fact, everyone looked at what James Harden did for that last 2 seasons, his MVP season, and a lot of people forget Kobe Bryant did that in 2006, 2007. He definitely did that 2006, 2007. And maybe I got that year wrong, but listen, the problem with Kobe Bryant is most people who are NBA fans now, their early 20s, were 7 or 8 when Kobe Bryant was doing his thing. And so because of the way the internet's taken off and stuff like that, a lot of Kobe's prime years where he was just dominating get massively overlooked because again, the average fan today who is not over 25, they just weren't conscious of it. Like I realistically, I grew up in the 90s, but I don't remember seeing a whole lot of Michael Jordan games. I just remember how dominant he was because of the fanfare. And then going back and looking at some of those games, like I've seen every one of Michael Jordan's games on ESPN Class and stuff like that. I watched it all the way through because I like basketball that much. But the average fan is not doing that. Now the way things are, the way we consume stuff, the average fan now was coming up around 2010, 2011, where they were really paying attention to what basketball is. And at 2010, 2011, that's the Heatles. You have to give that like 2010 to 2020, that's LeBron's time. I don't take that away from him. LeBron was the mainstay of the 2010s. Got his name doing early, but until he started winning with the Heat, you really could make a battle that was Kobe's time. That's just in a nutshell. If you really go back to it, Kobe Bryant was considered the best player in the game from 2002 to 2010. You can go back and look at the tape. You can hear the announcer say it. You can hear ESPN say it. Kobe Bryant ran the league from 2002 to 2010. And truth be told, 2012, but before he got injured, was one of his best seasons ever. When he was trying to fight to get that playoff spot with a very late injury-ridden team. So at that point, it's like, hey, you can make a fighting argument that Kobe Bryant deserves to be 1A. I mean, 1B. I would say 1B with Michael Jordan. I would never put Kobe over Mike because I think imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and nobody did it better than Kobe. Like you and people clown him for it, but it's like, listen, if you come into any profession at 17, 18, you say, who's the best person? And they say, well, that guy's the best person. You say, okay, well, what is he doing that makes him so good? I'm gonna go do that. That's basically what Kobe did. He came in at 18. Mike was same 6'6", played the same position. So you gotta remember, they same height, same weight. He's like, okay, if he could do it, I can do it. And he just went out and did it. You can't hate somebody for that. You can't. I think the fans themselves are clowns for doing so. Realistically, I do. Realistically, I do. Tim Duncan, we get into that point. I actually wasn't a Tim Duncan fan. I wasn't a Tim Duncan fan for a very long time, bro. And so I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. Small forwards, I'm going to say this. I have LeBron as the greatest small forward to ever played, which is the only reason why I put him over Kobe on my list. Because I feel like if you are the best at your position, you have to be you have to get that nod. But it's only because of that I have LeBron over Kobe. Only because of that. Not because I think that, if I have LeBron in his prime and I have Kobe in his prime, I would not take LeBron in his prime over Kobe. I just wouldn't. But just because of what he's accomplished, how he's been dominant at his position, I can't deny that. I can't deny. Would I throw Grant Hill in there as part of the convo? No. I'm gonna be honest with you. The best ability is availability. Um, and Grant Hill just wasn't available. If we're being honest, Derrick Rose as a point guard, if he was to remain healthy, would probably be the most dynamic and best point guard we've ever seen. Like I said this earlier to someone else, the career that Russell Westbrook is having, just knowing the injuries he had and stuff like that, and how he's bounced back and how he's still killing the league. Blanco, what's good? What's good with you? It's only because of that. Like we wish Derrick Rose had that type of career. Like Derrick Rose came back from those injuries and had that type of tenacity. I think most fans from Chicago would say that. Like they wanted him to have the respect that Russ is finally getting for what he does. And because he had such a high ceiling and we knew injuries took him out, I think that's really why Russ gets not Russ, Rose gets the love that he gets. He remained humble. We knew he was going through a lot and we had nothing but love for him. And as a Chicago, born and raised in Chicago, actually have gone to some of the same schools he's gone to and got nothing but love for the man. I really wanted him to succeed. I want him to have a great career. And I love what he's doing with the Knicks. But if we did if was a fifth thing, dog, please, D Rose would be on the top of that list. Definitely be on top of that list. But he couldn't stay healthy. So because of that, I can't give Grant Hill those nods. I can't give Penny Hardaway those nods because the injury ruined their careers. Yeah. Does that mean I'm going to call them scrubs? Absolutely not. But when it comes to how I rank them all time greats, I can't put them up there. I can't say what if. Realistically, if T Mac didn't get injured, guess what? T Mac would probably be one of the greatest or the greatest small forward we've seen. I think, yeah, he plays small forward. I mean, think about it. Even Kobe said it. He did everything Kobe could do, but he was taller. That's enough right there. You can't he did everything Kobe, but he was taller. Prime T Mac was disgusting, bro. Hey, listen, Prime T Mac was a problem. Was a problem. But that just goes to show you a couple things that kind of attributes to my point of why you could say Kobe had to have much more competition because Kobe actually got drafted as a small forward, played two guard, but those three guards would stick him. If you go back, I think even in I take the Denver series versus Lakers, Carmelo stuck Kobe into those games a lot of times, and they battled. They really battled. So when Kobe was sitting there lighting up J.R. Smith, Melo stuck him. And that still has to be one of the best playoff series I've ever seen, just because of how physical they allowed them to get. Kobe had to go through all them dudes. Almost dropped it. I'm trying to use better words. Pat be getting almost dropped it though. But so even still though, LeBron will be my number one at small forward, hands down. I can't do. I don't even know who I would have at number two for a small forward. To be honest with you, that's just how dominant he's been at that position. It would have to be someone now. Like I would have to put like KD there now. Like KD as a small forward now. Yeah, KD would probably be number two for so far. I would definitely have to say that. Like you can't even deny that. Like if you look at, and this is another reason why the GOAT conversation in itself, man, it's just irrelevant because when you look at what KD can do, KD can do everything LeBron does. Just the way his system is worked, he doesn't dish out as many assists. But if you look up their career numbers, KD puts up the same numbers as LeBron. 27-7 and LeBron averages 27-7 and 7 for a career. Kevin Durant averages 27-7 and 4. But I mean, listen, that three, but at the same time, I would say that Kevin Durant allows I definitely have Kevin Durant over Bird. I definitely have Kevin Durant over Bird. Now here's the thing though. When we go based off accomplishments, it's not even close. It's still Bird. And if we base it off of what Bird could do and stuff like that, let me take that back. That's a tough one. Look at Pat Turner. That's up my show. That's a tough one. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's tough because Bird took an organization who was at the bottom of the league, and year one it was a 60-win team as soon as he got drafted. If you look at it, and Bird could pass. So Bird, I think, averaged close to LeBron. He averaged LeBron 24 10 and 7 one season. And but the one thing I will say this is Larry Bird had one of the best teams to have ever graced a basketball court. Everyone talks about how Michael Jordan didn't have good competition in the 80s and stuff like that. First of all, Detroit Pistons was a problem. They had two people on there around his position who could score and defend, so that was a problem. And the and the Boston Celtics was one of the top 15 rated defensive and offensive teams that have ever played basketball. If you look it up. So yeah, that's the only knock I have over Bird. Bird had a Warriors type team, legitimately. Kevin McHale was a problem. Larry Bird, a problem. The rest, problem. Look up their stats as individuals, and then look up collectively what they accomplished as a team. It was a problem. Problem. No, you can't get that same knock to MJ, but that's a whole different thing. A whole different thing right there. But so that's honestly, I would have LeBron, Bird, and KD at 3. And I don't think you could go wrong with that list. Like there's not a problem with that list. Not a problem with that list at all. Like honestly, going back to it, I didn't put a third for shooting guard. D Wade as a third is not a problem. It probably end up being James Harden when it's all said and done, depending on what he does in Brooklyn. But hey, that's not that's that what that's not you can't. Who else would you really rank over them definitively? You really can't do that. Now the power forward position, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm stuck because I personally feel like Karl Malone as an individual contributor was better than Tim Duncan. The numbers don't say that though. But Karl Malone is second in all-time points. Karl Malone also is Aaron, I love how spicy you are. That's cussing in the comments. That's you sounds real intelligent. Shows how big your vocabulary is. Um I have Karl Malone there, and I know Karl Malone gets a bad rep for all the stuff he's done, his history and stuff like that. I get that, but to be honest with you, Karl Malone is rated as one of the most dominant defensive and offensive players in league history as well. The only problem I have with that is Tim Duncan accomplished more, and he stood beside David Robinson. Karl Malone didn't have anybody to stand next to. It was Karl Malone and John Stockton, and I think that aided that. And I also believe Tim Duncan benefited a lot from the big three they had there, which no one ever gives credit. No one ever gives Tony Parker credit. No one ever gives Ginobili credit. But all of the legends here was like, hey, Tony Parker was a problem. Kobe Bryant talking about Tony Parker was a problem. Everyone talks about Manu Ginobili coming off the bench. Ginobili was a problem. Hey, James Harden knows how much of a problem Ginobili was, especially on defensive end. Go look that up. But anyway, like that was a big three in itself, and no one gives them credit as a big three. But you didn't. But they have never won a championship without each other, and they had one of the all-time greatest coaches. Pop is definitely one of the all-time greatest coaches. If you really run down the list, you got Phil Jackson and you got Pop. He's up there. You can't you can't beat. Since Vanessa over Kyrie, interested in your thoughts. Interested in your thoughts. Huh. IT over Kyrie. Kyrie's career isn't over yet, and so that's kind of hard to say. I would say this: Kyrie is, Aaron is a dislike. Aaron, that's you. You've been hating this whole time. You hate. Listen, for those who don't know, Aaron comes in and hates on every video. If we find who the dislike is, he hates on every single video that gets posted on this channel. So I'm happy to find out. Hey, listen, put him up there, Pat. Put him up there. We want to highlight that man. Hating from the shadows. Hey, we finally found out who you are. I got some words for you, but I'm gonna let you have it. I'm gonna let you breathe on my boy. Yeah, we are dumb. I appreciate it. But you take your time out of your day to come dislike a video every freaking day. You know, Pat himself has over 400 videos and it has one dislike on like several hundreds of them. You're that guy. You're that guy. So for you to take out the time, we appreciate you, my boy. This green tea's for you. I'm trying to be healthy now. That's how petty I am. Anyway, but that was a good question right there, though. Aaron, that was a good question right there. Listen, Eddie, that man is a clown. That is a clown. Playing inside out with. Yes, it absolutely was, bro. And so, listen, I would say that, but Tim Duncan has accomplished so much. He's won a championship in 3 different decades. I don't know if you can say that about anybody else. You definitely can't say that about Tony Parker, and he was right there with him. Can you say that about Tony Parker? Nope, because he wasn't there when initially. He wasn't there initially. So guess what? Tim Duncan is the only one that went in the 90s, the 2000s, and 2010s. Dominated for a very long time. And he's top 10, top 15 in a lot of lists just due to his consistency. I can't hate that. I can't hate that. That man deserves to be exactly where he is, 1 or 2, no matter what you have. And a lot of people have him as 1 just because of that. And so I give him a nod on that one. But I have Karl Malone as a very close second. Very close second. Now, here's the thing. Where do you rank Giannis? Is Giannis a power forward? Or is Giannis sometimes have him as a center? They sometimes have him as a small forward. Where do you rank Giannis? Because if you rank Giannis as a forward, then before it's all said and done, there's no way in the world that you don't have a two-time MVP ranked. I'm checking it now. Dog, Giannis has played small forward, shooting guard, point guard, small. He was small forward, shooting guard, point guard, small forward again when he first made his All-Star game, and then he's been playing power forward for the last 4 seasons. I didn't know they had him at a point guard. That was interesting. That's real interesting. I learned something today. Hey, check that out. That's crazy. That's crazy. But Giannis is ranked as a power forward, 2-time, 4-time All NBA, 3-time All Defensive, 5-time All Star, and 2-time League MVP. How do you realistically? He's probably going to go down as the greatest or one of the greatest over Karl Malone. And depending on if he can get some chips to go along with it, he probably go over Tim Duncan, depending on how many he gets. To be honest with you, because I think Tim Duncan has 5, but Tim Duncan himself does not have a league MVP, does he? He has 3 Finals MVP. Yeah, he does. Tim Duncan has 2 league MVPs. Well, Tim Duncan deserves to be up there now. Now here's what we got. How do I feel about LeBron jumping over Kobe in the Jordan Bay? I think he only jumps over Kobe because he's the best small forward. I think I kind of answered that a little bit. He jumps over him because he's the best small forward to have played, and you have to give him that nod. But and Kobe is the second greatest just because of Michael Jordan. But outside of that, it's hard to say. It's very hard to say. And going back to the Giannis debate. I think the only thing stopping Giannis from having multiple rings at this point is coaching. If Milwaukee gets a better coach, I guarantee you we're going to see them in the finals for a very long time. If they can keep this team together because they are rolling right now, in my opinion. And listen, no, I'm not trying to see it. And I know Stefan Adon is a Heat fan. The Heat have nothing for a well-coached Milwaukee team. Coaching is the biggest issue they have there because they have the talent to compete. They really do. They have the talent to compete with anybody. And you got to think about it. We know exactly what Giannis is going to do, and he's still getting 40. He's still getting 40. And Aaron, did you say stop being mean? You just came out here cussing at people and say stop being mean. Boy, if you don't get your... You're going to make me lose my religion on YouTube, dog. You're going to make me lose my religion on YouTube. Don't do it. Don't do it. Giannis needs to go to Portland, in my opinion. He does need to do something. Or Dame needs to go to Milwaukee. If he wants to be loyal to small market teams, he needs to go to Milwaukee. Something needs to happen. Ooh, Dame on Milwaukee would be nasty. Anyway, we get to the best. This is the part I like using the centers for last because if you look at any GOAT debate, any top 10 list, any top 15 list, it's center dominated. It is center dominated. And here's my problem. Some of these centers legitimately don't belong on the list as top in the GOAT debate. I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound really weird, and everyone's gonna disagree with me on it. But when you really look at the Bill Russell era, and you look at the best players in the league for how small the league was, he had about 20% of them on his team. Dog, come on. If you want to talk about somebody who does it, who gets a whole bunch of credit for winning 11 rings, but then you really look at it, it's like Bill Russell was a phenom. Bill Russell he definitely is one of the greats. But when you say, yeah, he's definitely top 5 or something like that, dog, my man had all the help. No wonder Jerry West and even Jerry West Law says many times he did to him. He had all the help. Go look it up. He had everybody on his team. You want to know who the original Warrior team was? That Boston team. So in my opinion, it's like, hey, listen, it's easy. It's a lot easier for you to have those type of accolades especially when you're one of the biggest dudes in the league and your team is dominating on so many levels. You realize he wasn't the highest scorer on his team. And I'm not saying he had to be defensive player to get the blocks he got stuff. He didn't have to be, right? He didn't have to, they didn't have to do that. But I mean, realistically, it's kind of tough for me to keep putting him up there when he had everybody. It's kind of tough for me to keep putting him over Wilt when Wilt did not have the same teams as Bill Russell, and they're kind of contemporaries. It's tough for me to do that. It's real tough. Yo, I can't I hate to say it, it's real tough. Now, am I trying to say that Bill Russell is better than isn't better than Shaq? I can't say that. But I will say this, Shaq was the most dominant player that ever played the game outside of Wilt, in my opinion. The most dominant player that ever played the game. No one even refutes that. You could not stop. Prime 2000 Shaq is the highest rated player on anyone's list as an individual complete player. Heck, if you're a video games fan, he's the highest rated player on 2K. He's the only player to ever get a 100 rating on any of those games. Mike didn't even get a 100 rating. Shaq had a 100 rating, which is crazy to think about. And if you go back and play that whack game, because it was a whack game, you threw it down to Shaq, no matter what happened, he's getting that dunk. But that was really prime Shaq. It's hard to refute that. It's hard to refute that. And so, hey, listen, I'm with you. Bill Russell versus Shaq, prime Shaq. Bill better sit down. He about to take a bow. He about to do something. Listen, those are freak. Those the men of old. Those were real men. But Shaq was a force of nature. And you just couldn't do that. You sit down, bro. Like you can't do nothing with that. So the center debate is always weird to me because Kareem does not get the respect he deserves. I think Bill gets more respect than he deserves. Wilt gets widely disregarded just because he didn't win as much as Bill, and Hakeem because he was the first big man to have to move like a guard. I mean, he also, let's be honest, Hakeem has two quadruple doubles, I believe, which is almost a very unbelievable stat. I didn't know he did it twice. It's only been done so many times in league history. I think he did it twice. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you all know in the chat, this is more of a history lesson for those who don't know. But going down that GOAT list and why all it, listen, that's crazy. That's crazy. Pat, that's a good point. Bill's legacy is a lot about what he did for blacks. And listen, that's one of the things I don't take away from those older players, because it is hard to sit there and tell me that someone of that age didn't have to endure a lot more than players have to do now. Like on top of busting people's behind on the court, probably getting called all types of names on the court, have all these type of people saying something on the sideline. All you just imagine that. Just imagine being in a white dominated league at the time and just murdering people. Yeah, he was probably all types of N words. He had to deal with a whole bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of hotels he couldn't get into, and you take all of that. That affects a player's psyche. That affects a lot of stuff. I'll be honest with you, kids. I disagree with it's not just about off game, because Muhammad Ali is considered one of the greatest, not just solely because of how good he was as a boxer, but his complete legacy of what he did outside of the ring. So if it applies in other sports, it also applies in basketball as well. Or what makes LeBron even as great is how vocal he's been in using his platform. Like LeBron, regardless, is going to be one of the greatest just because of how he uses his platform. That in itself keeps him in that conversation. And I actually love LeBron's game and as a person, everything he brings to the table. I love the way that he's allowed players to take control of their own destiny and stuff like that. Right. So you have to think of the impact that they have off the court in so many different ways is just as important to the legacy and what we consider them an NBA GOAT. Because being a GOAT is not just about winning in itself, it's about how you move the game forward. And you can't say that Bill didn't do that. You can't say that LeBron didn't do it. Definitely can't say Mike didn't do it. And in so many ways, you can't say Kobe didn't do it. Like I Mamba mentality, even before he passed, was a mainstay. Like it was a phrase in multiple sports. That's how he impacted the world. When Kobe retired, you actually felt as if the game was different. A lot of people say it. The game just feels different now that Kobe's not there. That's impact. When Tim Duncan retired, you didn't say the game feels different because Tim Duncan retired. No, you said the game felt different because Kobe retired. Right? Steph in itself, that's a good one. Steph is Steph. I'm really focused on people who've retired because, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest with you, we're going to look back at Russell Westbrook's career from a statistical standpoint totally different than what the narratives have been 10 years from now. In 10 years, when I say he'd be done in 10 years. In 10 years, when he retires, we're gonna look back at this man's career, whether he wins a ring or not, and we're gonna be like, this dude was dominant. Right? We're gonna look back at Steph's career. We're gonna say that, but you gotta keep this into perspective. There's another active player who's slowly but surely creeping up them same ladders and lists, who I think is just as good or a better shooter. Dame Dollar is as just as good as a shooter. And if you ask me, under pressure, I mean, I have to see him do it in the playoffs, but I think he has. Like last year, Dame in the playoffs, pulling up from the logo. I mean, easy money. See, that's why didn't you say something about Barkley when we was talking about that position? Because Barkley is a beast that know everyone overrates too. I mean, underrates. Barkley gets clowned basically for not winning a ring, but people forget Charles Barkley was the star on the USA Dream Team. He really was. They loved Charles Barkley. Michael Jordan was good. Michael Jordan was great. All that stuff. But Charles Barkley was MVP that season too. And he put up LeBron type numbers, 2018 LeBron type numbers against the Bulls. Right? This is why them GOAT conversations are so nuanced and stuff like that. At the end of the day, they don't matter. Everyone, if you have to rank it, I'd rather you rank it by position. I'd rather you rank it by generation. There's no way in the world you can sit there and look at Michael Jordan's generation and say he's not the GOAT of that generation. With Hakeem probably being the second coming out of that same draft. There's no way in the world you can look at the 96 draft and not say Kobe Bryant. There's no way you can look at the 03 draft and not say, which is a 7-year span, basically. You can't look at the 03 draft and anything that happened in 2010s and say LeBron is not the GOAT of his generation. The only thing you can fight against LeBron is the fact that he has a losing record in the finals, and a lot of people ate even when, like I would say this, LeBron did not do as much as I would have liked him to do with superior talent. The Heat should have won more than 2 rings. The Heat should have won more than 2 rings. Dirk Nowitzki's career is what it is now, his legacy, because they beat the Heat. If Dirk loses against the Heat, we don't rank him as high. But it's because of the team they had and how they beat them. Dirk's whole legacy is won because they beat an overly loaded team. And it's the first time in league history, in their prime, you had so many players on the same team that collaborated to be there, that wasn't drafted and developed and stuff like that. They collaborated to be there. It's the first time it happened in that way. You can debate it all you want to. I done looked this up 1,001 times. It's the first time it happened in that manner. And they definitely should have won 3. And I'm willing to say they should have won 4. They should have won every one that they had. There's no way in the world that Spurs team should have beat them. I don't believe so. No way in the world. And so that's the only thing. And then at the same time, you really can't look at the Warriors and say, oh, they were a super team. They developed all of their players, except for one. Steph was developed, and Steph almost got traded. Steph was almost out of the league, not out of the league, but Steph was almost off of the roster because they didn't know how healthy he was going to be. Clay is a drafted and developed player. Draymond is a drafted and developed player. The only person they actually bought was KD. And if you really looked at it, them finals was not as lopsided as you look at it. Like the 72-10 Warriors were not unbeatable. They were different. They were different. You had never seen two elite shooters go off like that in league history. You've never seen it before. You've never seen someone of Steph's caliber with someone of Clay's caliber on the same team eating off of each other with a scheme based off and believe it or not, you've never seen someone like Draymond just be so unselfish to get them. Draymond was really their Dennis Rodman with assist totals. He was a bad boy who could get rebounds and do, but he kept that team together and he sacrificed his own personal production so those people could be great, and he bought into that. You hadn't really seen that in today's modern NBA. So because of that, they were different. And when the league caught on and they start playing them physical, them games was a lot tougher than people think. Hey, everyone talks about KD, joined the team that beat them when he was up 3-1. But guess what? They was up 3-1. Which goes to show they weren't unbeatable. They just came together at the right time. So that wasn't a super team. I would give it, like T-Mac said, they were a big three. They were a big three. And with KD, then it starts going to that. Then it starts to go into maybe you say super team. And here's why, again, the GOAT debate is so nuanced. How does a player like Kevin Durant go to a team where they win 73 games and everyone defers to him? Think about that. There's little interviews where KD is like, hey, I have to tell Steph, go get yours. I'm going to get mine. The man is so good that he could hit 30 win a system. That's what people don't. Systems can kill players' legacies. Systems can kill players. Like playing within a system is why Michael Jordan doesn't have the assist totals that he has. Playing within those specific, playing within a system is why Kobe Bryant doesn't have some of the numbers that you wanted him to have for these debates because of the system. It didn't. They still had their shine, but those systems were catered to for them to do certain things and other players do other things. KD literally shows up and say, hey, do what you need to do. I'm still going to get mine. And gets it. And gets it. There's nothing you can do with that. KD with 15 shots can average just as much as somebody with 22. Easy money. Literally easy money. Like, so again, the GOAT conversation in itself, Steph, you know, I'm really big on KD because I think as a KD and Kyrie to me are true skill. Like when it comes from a skill perspective, they're probably the best you're going to see in today's NBA outside of a Dame and Russ. There's no one you've ever seen, especially at his stature, that has the skill set of a Kyrie Irving. You call him Mr. Flat Earther, whatever you say like that. But Kyrie has three things that goes for him. He has a killer mentality. He has the best handle you've ever seen. And honestly, just the optics of it, he has one of the prettiest games you've ever seen. Like when you think about spending your $200 to thousands of dollars to sit as close to the court as possible, Kyrie's one of the players you want to see. And he's a winner, despite what you say. There's still games right now where Kyrie is going toe-to-toe with prime Steph Curry, knocking down tray after tray after tray. So realistically, I think we're living now in a time where the game has evolved so much. All of these players before, like Mike, your Kobe's and stuff like that, they've influenced the game so much that the players now are reaping the benefits of it. We in any other sport, industry, whatever, you have what's called pioneers. people who have literally created or set a certain tone in their industry takes off because of it. That's all these players were. That's all LeBron is. He's a pioneer for well, I can't say he's a pioneer of the point forward position because you have Magic Johnson, but as far as being your own man, controlling your own destiny, stuff like that. He's pioneering that for today's NBA. Does that make the game better? I think it does. I think it adds another element to it that will allow players to actually take their own destiny in their own hands and go play with people to actually strengthen their legacy, stuff like that, and to do what they want to do. And I appreciate that. And on top of that, you buzzing your behind. You can't beat that. You really can't. You really can't beat that. Scotty was a point forward too. Now here, I think Scotty is one of those players where we give him a lot of credit because he helped win 6. But do you know Scotty doesn't have a Defensive Player of the Year award? Scotty's rated as one of the best defenders to have ever played. He doesn't have a Defensive Player of the Year award. You know who does though? Michael Jordan. Do what you will with that. I'm not saying Scottie Pippen was trash. I definitely don't believe it was trash. But I think he benefited from LeBron. I mean, not LeBron, from Michael Jordan's legacy a lot more than we give credit to. it's wild. I know it's wild, but I mean, the best. He was next to him. I mean, be honest with you. We saw Scottie Pippen do it alone for 1 year, Pat. And to be honest with you, the fact that he wasn't entrusted to close out games lets me know that he still had a long way to go. And so, ugh. T. Mac Duncan does not have a Defensive Player of the Year award. I actually don't have Duncan as one of my top defenders, though. Although he is top 15 in blocks, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's top 15 in blocks. He's on that list somewhere. He's definitely up there for top 10 for rebounds, I believe. For sure. It's one of those that switched. I don't have it in front of me, but here's the thing, though. There's a lot of different nuances with those things. A lot of different nuances. And as you can see, I've kept this conversation so fluid because it's like that's why it's so irrelevant. Look how every time we make one solid point about one player, we mention another player and you can't deny it. You can't deny a lot of these accomplishments. You can't deny that. So at this point, it's like, yo, why are we still having that conversation? Let's just show appreciation for the game as it is and where it's going. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be talking about Steph. We're going to be talking about Dame. We're going to be talking about all of these point guards right now who are doing phenomenal things on a level that they're doing on a level that the point guards before them didn't do. Does it mean that they couldn't do it? No. I love the GOAT debate when it comes to shooting because people say, hey, Michael Jordan wasn't a good 3-point shooter. One of his best seasons for shooting a 3 was 42%. He shot nearly 200. He had shot 263s that season. It's the second most in his career. But it was 42% in a time where the 3-point shot wasn't nowhere near as dominant as it is now. You mean to tell me Mike wouldn't have been able to knock down 3 at 42%? You do realize that means he hit 4 out of every 10, right? Dog, come on now. As Pat likes to say, cream rises to the top. I don't believe it's true in every situation, but it definitely shows up when it comes to the best who've ever played. Who's better on defense, Kawhi or Pippen? I think you can. I would go Kawhi. I would go Kawhi as a better player. I would go Kawhi as a better player. That's tough for me to say, but I have a whole lot. Kawhi is better as a player on anything that doesn't involve getting another teammate involved. Because Kawhi Leonard has to have one of the worst assist totals for a player in his position that's in these conversations I've ever seen, especially on a career level. Like, you go look at it. Go look at it. Go look at it for yourself and see what's to it. But before we get up out of there, I got the last 5 minutes. I want to leave this open to address a couple of things that we got into the chat. I know I've been kind of weaving in and out of it, quiet, Pippen above 6'7", 7'3", Span. I'm just asking about defense. That's you right. You right. I would still say I still say Kawhi. I still say Kawhi. I really do. Um, and that's tough to say. That's really tough to say, but yeah. Tanner, what's good? What's good? I kind of hate the new 3-point happy pace of games right now. Sometimes teams are stuck. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, there are teams now who take more threes in a half than some teams have taken in 10 games back in the 90s or 10 games back in the early 2000s. So, we take more threes in 1 or 2 games than entire generations did over a couple games in a season. That's wild to me. It's wild to me. But it also goes to show you how some of these players that we hail as the greatest really deserve to be up there. I mean, let's be honest about it. Mike dropped 69 points, and he didn't take a lot of. He took like 2, 3 threes. He dropped 69 points. When Kobe Bryant dropped 81, he didn't hit as many threes as he didn't take as many threes as you would think he did. In fact, if you look at it, Steph, it's amazing to me that Steph, James Harden, or any one of them haven't even gotten really close to it, to beating the 81 record. If you really look at it, if you really look at the amount of threes they take, how many threes that they hit, and stuff like that, it just goes to show you how much we underappreciate Kobe Bryant's 81, or even his 63 and 3/4. The man dropped 63 and 3/4. He outscored a team. Put that into perspective. He single-handedly outscored the Dallas Mavericks, and the owner had to stand up and give him a round of applause in some of those games. You come on, dog. And he didn't do that from 3. He did it from 2 because that was how the game was played. It's amazing to me just how the narrative changed. And so that goes to show you that, man, listen, Kobe Bryant gets his flowers now, but I think I hate to say this. I think Kobe Bryant really only gets his flowers now because of his passing. If it wasn't for that, I think a lot of people would still be clowning or denigrating, or I still can't get over Nick Wright saying that Kawhi Leonard was better than Kobe Bryant in the clutch. I still can't get over Max Kellerman at one point used to have all these arguments against Kobe Bryant and stuff like that. But you hear him now, Kobe's top 5. How? Why? Why not? What changed? What changed between when he retired to now that would make him top 5? Oh, you saw his impact? You went back to it? Like some of that stuff, I would really love to have a conversation with those people to see why they flip-flopped on that stance. That's because to me, that's cap. I can't get with that. To me, I can't go in there for years and tear somebody down, and then all of a sudden they pass and now I'm gonna put them on. No, I don't. Tell me why. So it's interesting for me to see stuff like that. I think Shaq is going to be another player who, once it's all said and done, unfortunately, he does not get the respect he deserves. How is this is going off on a tangent? I can sit there and talk about basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport. Basketball kept me out of trouble. Basketball and cars kept me out of trouble. Y'all don't understand. But how does Shaq win 3 straight Finals MVPs, and LeBron James is more impactful for the Lakers than he is? Do you realize that there's nobody who's ever won 3 straight Finals MVPs for the Lakers? Magic didn't win 3 straight. Kareem didn't win 3 straight. None of those legendary Lakers won 3 straight Finals MVPs. Shaq won 3 straight. First that I've ever done it. But if you look at some of the lists that they have out now, LeBron James is on par with him as far as impact on the Lakers. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Tanner Iverson is so greatly underrated. Dude is my height and was unstoppable. That's when Iverson became. I saw Iverson in Detroit. I was 20. I was in Detroit. Was I 20? This was when he first got there. So however old I was at the time. No, I was younger than that. However I was at the time was when he played for Detroit, and Ivo used to have these little private runs or whatever that for some odd reason half the neighborhood would even know where he was at, and he would show up dolo to him. And I remember seeing him like within reaching distance. I could see him, and I was like, bro, I could see the top of his head. And it just to me it was just like we are the same size, and my man got 26,000 points. I think it was like 24,000 points, whatever it was at the time, against some of the best players that have ever done it. It blew my mind to see him there, and I was like, I mean, you when you see, I don't want to say he's, well, I would say he's my idol at the time. I would say he was one of my idols. Like I could say that, I could say that I held him in that air, although I don't, kind of believe in that thing, putting a man on that pedestal. Um, when I saw that, it changed my whole perspective. I saw him, I was like, yo, this dude, this dude right here, the baggy coat, everything like that. I mean, he looked like somebody I would see on my block growing up. And that's what I always respected about. Once I saw that, I was like the quote was, we need to be happy that he wasn't 6'6". Because if he was 6'6", y'all gotta remember, he was averaging points a season for a while. He despite the fact the way his career ended, he's still 26,000 points. That's a lot of points for somebody who wasn't supposed to be in the league like that, doing what he was doing. That's a lot of freaking points. Killing it. Now I tell you what, he fit in this era greatly. Why? Because he just jack up shots like everybody else. Shooting percentage is horrible. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's like 0.42. shooting percentage is horrible. Now, I mean, Kobe's ain't much better. It's like 0.445. But so is James Harden. But whatever. But that's a whole different rabbit hole. I ain't gonna go down that. But yeah, dude, when I saw Iverson in person, it changed my whole perspective on his career. And I think he gets his flowers. I think he gets his just due. I really do think he gets his just due because culturally he's important for us. And he definitely gets held in high regard amongst the things. It's just his overall contribution to the game is great. His legacy is great, but it just wasn't on the same level. It just wasn't on the same level as the Kobe's and stuff like that. But I think he gets his just due, in my opinion. I really do. Iverson averaged 37, 7, and 5. It's close. Hey, listen, the one thing I like about here's the two things I'm gonna end on this note real quick. My two favorite players have always been Allen Iverson first, Kobe Bryant second. Mike was always like a god tier player. I have always revered him at that, but I never felt connected to Mike as a player, right? Iverson said, I wanted to be like Michael Jordan. I wanted to go out there, average 30, and do that. And if you looked at it, Iverson went out there, tried to average 30. And he practically did. Kobe Bryant had the same thing. He said, I want to go out there and I want to be like Mike. I want to be better than Mike. And he almost did it. And so for our generation, I really feel like the one thing that we have to do as people who kind of grew up in that era is, one, keep things in proper perspective, that the game evolves. And when we recap and we compare these players, do so from the fact that some of the things we're seeing now is only possible because of the players then. Some of the stuff you see now, the crazy footwork and stuff like that, that's an attribute to Kobe Bryant. When Kobe Bryant came out with that reverse pivot, everybody was like, that's a travel. That reverse pivot is a mainstay in anyone's game now. When Iverson was coming out crossing people, guess what? You can literally see that influence on it. John, what's good with you? So, hey, listen, it's been one. We've been on here for an hour and 4 minutes. I can't believe y'all didn't let me sit here and talk that long. I also can't believe I actually sat here and talked that long myself, to be honest with you. I'm kind of impressed with myself. Give myself a round of applause. Pat on my freaking back. Hey, listen, we have covered a lot, man. We have covered a lot. We kind of got a chance to talk about something other than just specific Bears, Bulls, and stuff like that. So if y'all really appreciate that, y'all want us to make this kind of a thing that we do with the crew, not just myself, but something we kind of bring the crew into, let us know, man. We love to hear that feedback. Love to hear what you all say in regards to that. like the video, subscribe to the page. Do you know what to do? You don't hit the bells wherever they are. Just hit the bell. You're already here. You're already here. We also got to find out who our hater is. So shout out to him, bro. Shout out to you. The fact that you are so dedicated to being such a hater. Shout out to you. I actually like it. I applaud it. You go out your way just to dislike the video, be the only dislike on videos. I love it. Shout out to you. If you had that same dedication in life, you'd probably be somewhere amazing. But with that being the case, I'm getting out of here. Man, listen, it's been once your boy P.Kidd. Like, share, subscribe, follow us, follow me. We got some amazing content. Pat's been killing on the content. We got Ringo, Stefan Adon, my fault, killing it with AD doing some. We calling Cubs games now, y'all. They calling baseball. And they doing a good job at it too. Shout out to them, man. So listen, y'all get in tune. We doing some big things, man. We got some big news coming up. Really working, really moving. And so until next time, fellas.